Some people call it the Department of Connections. Put a bunch of criminals in one space and they learn how to navigate the system, how to get better. What happens in rehab? First thing, what happens in rehab stays in rehab. No, I'm just joking. It's a crazy experience. I feel like if you explained it to the outside world, sometimes, I always tell my patients, it's like we're just teaching you like how to keep your medical appointments, how to look people in the eyes, how to deal with emotions. These are maybe some of the skills that normally a person who's gone through addiction doesn't have. First stage is detox, coming off substances. We recently did a video on what that process is, so check that out. 2 would be residential treatment, so 30 to 60, sometimes 90 days, you stay in a lockdown facility. Typically you don't have access to phones, you have access to a lot of counselors. You're in group from, let's say, 9 a.m. to at night. They feed you in there. It's not typically a hotel. Typically these places aren't like the nicest unless you're, maybe going to Beverly Hills or Cali or Florida. They have some nice ones. That's typically not the experience. Normally it's like you puking your guts out with some Pepto-Bismol or something in the first process, and then you're just, learn how to sleep and stuff again. It's the first phase of your recovery. I like to tell clients that I work with, like when you're in treatment, that, this is discovery. When you leave here, it's recovery. So you're learning everything now, so when you get out, you have the tools. Next phase, sometimes people go to a sober living. Treatment services are an outpatient. So, there's partial hospitalization programs that you're typically in group 20 hours a week, I think is the minimum. So you might be living in a house for sober support, which is kind of a crazy concept too. It's kind of like, adult daycare. You're learning like, hey, how do I not do heroin at lunchtime? But you're in programs all day from the morning to maybe mid-afternoon, then you're in counseling, seeing the doctors and so forth. In those programs, what do you learn? There's stuff called evidence-based models, just like if you break your arm. They just don't make up stuff, right? They take an x-ray, they're like, okay, you got a fracture, you wear a cast for 6 to 8 weeks. Probably heals, I would imagine, 6 to 8 weeks, and they have a medical-based model. Same thing with partial hospitalization program. They've calculated how many talk therapy hours it takes to reduce the cravings, reduce the thinking, distortions that you have in order to live a life in recovery. Then you step down to intensive outpatient, which is 3 to 5 days a week to really carry on that long-term recovery. But the fun question is like, what's going on in these rehab? Getting jobs in there. Are we getting the help? So typically you have a bunch of components, maybe family therapy. They're talking, especially with children, discharge planning. So creating a recovery plan. Typically in rehabs, you have a large portion of people that are in recovery. Sometimes they're crazy, just like when people go to prison, it's called the Department of Corrections. Some people call it the Department of Connections. You put a bunch of criminals in one space and they learn how to navigate the system, how to get better. You always have that guy who's been there 47 times telling you how to not be in rehab. I would avoid that person. Not having access to phones, which is good. They're triggering. Let's say you have a partner who's using and you're talking to them every day and you're hearing them nodding off on the phone, for example, or you're talking to your drug dealer. Most people say, my drug dealer's so nice. Like they're selling you heroin. How is that? How is that nice? They're giving you booze. Residential, you might, obviously, they're separated from male and female. And then you might have a partner that's in your room there. Or you might have a solo bed. Some addicts know the tricks of the trade and knows how to get their own rooms and, make up stuff like that. One day you might learn, how to combat a trigger. What are external triggers, internal triggers. You might write a letter saying goodbye to your addiction. You might, talk to a therapist about how to stop triggers. Like, I can't stop thinking about this stuff. Outpatient, pretty similar. You might have a case manager that helps you get a driver's license or combat some of the issues that's a barrier in treatment or overall barrier in your life, because addiction wipes out entire families. In 2023, we know so many people at the stage know somebody that's been addicted to substances. We just don't know how to help them, or we might give them tough love, but then we get worried because if we give them tough love, they might pass away. Professional treatment providers are there to normally assist. There might be medicine that needs to be managed. Some people get on medical assisted treatment. Some people are just getting back on their psych medication. These are the stages of rehab, what kind of goes in rehabs. Like I said, there's some bad ones where there's a bunch of drugs in there and really just learning more people to use with. There's some very strict ones, some very good ones. Routines and being strict with people addiction is really good in the beginning because their life is chaotic. They're just doing whatever they want. It's very important to get that structure back in your life. A lot of times they don't know how to handle it. I can speak from personal experience. Like I couldn't understand why they make us go to sleep at 10 o'clock and wake up during the morning, because that's what normal people do. You know, I would say don't find too many friends in there. It's good to have support, but friends can be detrimental, you know, because I don't think nobody leaves a rehab and they're like, you know, I'm gonna completely screw my life up, lose my kids, lose my car to the dope man. It's steps that they got prepare you when they get out. Like yesterday I was sharing in my groups, you know, it just seems like when you get sober, that's when people get free drugs away. Other thing you see in rehabs, you know, you get to see your progress. So sometimes they got scales like GADs and all this stuff. They get to see you came in severely depressed, anxiety, crazy, and then they gradually, you know, get better. You know, there's measurements that we use that show your progress. So again, my name is Jacob Spells with Vital Health. I appreciate you.